Hey guys, welcome to another episode. I know with coronavirus and everything that's going on, you guys aren't seeing the super artsy videos that you typically see Jeb and I shoot. But I'm not morally okay with all the stuff that's going on right now. So I just think it's completely not okay for me to post content not related to the Black Lives Matter movement and civil unrest and all the stuff that's going on right now. So today I'm going to talk about definitely a sensitive topic for me. Shout out to everyone who put ideas on my Instagram and literally wrote all the things that they think I should talk about in this next topic. And I decided to go with this topic, which is some of the racial experiences that I experienced growing up. Now, for those of you who don't know me, I'm gonna go a little bit into my story. Hi, I'm Bijan Brighton. I'm Bijan Brighton. I grew up in Silver Spring, Maryland. I lived in Silver Spring, Maryland for about 6 years before I moved to Bowie, Maryland, where evidently is where I grew up. I was born in New York, and I moved from New York when I was 4 years old with my mom. I grew up in a single family household. Yes, my dad was still there. My grandfather was a major father figure in my life. Growing up, I didn't grow up in a what you call middle class household till I got to the age of about 12 years old. I lived in not the projects, but I would say about 2 notches above that. So till I was about 13 years old, I never really had a lot of experiences with white people, white people or Caucasians or whatever you want to call the race unless I was going to the dentist, right, or the doctor, or something like that. So I had a narrow focus, and I wouldn't say narrow focus, but I had a narrow way of understanding life. Turning 14 years old, my mom decided to pull me out of public school. I was going to Benjamin Tasker Middle School in Bowie, Maryland, for those of you guys who want to do a quick search. My mom pulled me out of Benjamin Tasker Middle School and put me in St. Pius X Catholic School, which was a predominantly white middle school institution for 8th grade, so that I had the opportunity to go to a really good high school to play sports and ultimately get the best education that I could. For a kid who grew up in an area which was predominantly black, I never really communicated with white people, which is kind of crazy to say, because if you look at the way I think now, I look at everyone as the same. But when you grow up in that environment and you don't deal with another type of individual, you only know one way, it's very different. So I went to a school, like I said, predominantly white. The first couple of weeks was very hard for me because everyone was just different. Everyone was from a different financial background than me. Everyone talked differently. Everyone had different, just different ways of going about life. And it was a lot for me to adjust with. I'd say about halfway through the year, I got a chance to adjust, and I understood that, everyone is equal, right? And, my 8th grade year went great. I ended up going to two really good high schools, the Mather Catholic High School, which I transferred from, and then finished at Indian Creek Upper School, which was great. Shout out to everyone who watches this video or whatever that went to Indian Creek. Amazing school. And during these times, before I got to college, I experienced some crazy racial experiences. And the first one I'm going to give you is when I was 12 years old. So when I was 12 years old, growing up, I never had a car or never had a scooter or anything. I would always have to walk everywhere. So for those of you who are from the Northeast, 7-Eleven was my spot, okay? I had a 7-Eleven about 3 miles from my house. And anytime I wanted to get a quick snack or something, I just tell my mom, hey, I'm about to walk to 7-Eleven to go get me a thing of gummy bears. If you know me, I love gummy bears. So I walked inside the 7-Eleven, and at the time, they were going through different ownership. So the guy who I used to always buy stuff from wasn't there anymore. They switched owners, they switched management. If you know 7-Eleven, they franchise. So at any given moment, someone new could be owning that branch. So I walked in, change of management, change of ownership, change of everything. And I'm in there, 12-year-old kid. I probably had on some bummy-like clothing because I'm just leaving my house to go get some gummy bears. Typical stop. And the way how the 7-Eleven was set up it was extremely big. Just picture about like 8 aisles of stuff. They had candy, chips, everything you could think of. And at the time they were reorganizing the store. So where I would usually walk when I would walk in to go grab the gummy bears and go check out, they moved it. So I was walking around a little bit trying to figure out where the gummy bears was. And the guy at the cashier register, I could almost feel like somebody's watching me, and I was extremely uncomfortable. And at the same time, I'm like, whatever. I'm not really thinking anything of it because I'm just gonna go get my gummy bears and walk home. So as I'm walking to the gummy bears, the guy comes up to me and he goes, "Wait, what are you doing here? Like, are you stealing? Like, what are you trying to do? Like, do you have money to pay for your purchase?" And at 12 years old, you gotta understand, I'm a 12-year-old boy. I don't really understand, I don't even understand what profiling means, because my mother raised me to understand that everyone's equal, regardless of where you're coming from. My mom grew up in Jamaica. She moved from Jamaica when she was 12 or 13 years old. So, coming from parents that are from a third world country, you don't really understand, I didn't really understand what was going on. And typically when you're that young, you don't really think anything of it. I say, hey, I'm paying for it, whatever, pay for it, let it go. And then it just goes on to the mist because you think that's completely normal. Fast forward, I'm 16 years old. I'm on a championship runner team at Indian Creek Upper School. I was on varsity as a sophomore, so a lot of my teammates were a lot older than me, and yes, I liked girls. So after a big game, we won a big playoff game. At this time, I was driving. A kid was like my little brother. His name is Jarrell. We were all in a big Chevy Suburban. I was driving the Chevy Suburban. We went to a party after the game, and we had a couple girls in the car before we went home, and I was like, yo, I'll drive you guys home. It's 2 a.m. I don't want you guys trying to figure out how to get home. Back then, there was no Uber. We get in the car, I drive back to the car, and where this girl lived was this area called Edgewater, which is in Maryland. Anyone who's from Maryland knows that Edgewater is a predominantly white neighborhood full of people who have, I would say, a very narrow way of thinking. At the time, it was 2 a.m. We're dropping the girls off, and there happened to be a major drug deal on her block. We don't know because we're 16-year-old kids. We're just trying to drop the girls off and go home. Drop them off, and literally 6 cop cars. Imagine cop cars right now. All the cops noise pulls up on me. And honestly, we had a bottle of alcohol in the rear trunk. Now you have to think, I'm a 16-year-old kid. I'm African American. I happen to be literally right outside a giant drug deal. I mean, these guys are moving heroin and all types of things. And of course, I happen to have a bottle of alcohol, being that I'm underage, in the car. So at 16 years old, I understand a little bit. I know a good bit about African American history and prejudice, people being prejudiced, racism, and all the good stuff. And I honestly was scared for my life. Cops walk up to the car. They ask me, "What are you doing here? Why are you here? You're 16, you have a provisional license, you shouldn't be driving, blah, 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 blah." Just straight up grilling me. And I'm just like, hey, we're just dropping those girls off. You can ask them. I have no idea what was going on. Scariest moment of my life. Fast forward, we get out of this situation, thank God, because I was literally him checking my car, and not knowing my rights from completely, not being where I'm at today, not sitting right here today. Fast forward to I'm 19 years old. I'm in college. I'm at West Virginia University as a rising sophomore before I transferred to Florida International University. And at this time, I was buying my first car. So I was walking into the BMW dealership. At this time, I was in this network marketing company called Vima. I was making what I thought was a ton of money. I was doing great. It was time for me to go pick up my car. And I told my mom I wanted a BMW. We go in the BMW dealership, and I walk in first. And outside of the BMW dealership, there was around, I'd say, 6 to 7 sales reps. None of them said a word to me. I walk in, I'm looking at the cars because I'm 19. I don't really, all that stuff, I'm kind of looking at it just like, what? And I just keep going in, walking in, I'm looking around, and I see the cars. And, long story short, the financial manager, because every dealership has a finance manager. Finance manager walks to me and asks me, "Hey, do you know why are you here? Are you sure you're in the right place?" And that to me was some of the craziest things I've ever heard in my life, because I never understood how I could be judged without physically not going through the qualification process. For those of you guys who aren't aware of the qualification process, when you're buying a vehicle, it's not how you look. It's about how much money you have in the bank, your financial situation, your credit, Those are the things that matter. It's not about if you're green, black, blue, white, orange. That stuff doesn't matter. So going through that is when I really understood, you know, how off America is as a whole, and the stuff that we need to do to really fix this. Because at the end of the day, you know, we have to take this big leap, and we have to completely break the chains of what we consider as being black in America, right? I am all about equality. I don't see white, black. I see everyone, right? I see everyone as what it is. But until we fix this problem and truly make African Americans equal in society, I'm talking about challenging all people with major corporations. Hire someone who's African American in a non-diversity VP role, right? Hire someone who's African American in a leading creative role where they're challenging the status quo to help you build once in a generation type of product. You know, I'm all about equal opportunity for all races, but we have to start with building up black people first. Straight up. We have to bring everyone equal. You know, it can't just be this person, and then everyone else is left out. So, you know, I just wanted to share with you guys my racial experiences, and, you know, I use this platform, use my comment box, and talk a little bit about some of the things you went through. I know it's a very touchy subject. 2 years ago, I would never talk about this because I'm just not that type of guy. But, you know, I feel like with everything going on right now, it's the perfect time for me to share my experiences. So thank you all. If you've watched up to this point, thank you. Continue to like, subscribe, turn on post notifications, and I appreciate you. I'm out.